and wild down here today. This is one of the local surf beaches. As you can see, there's a lot of rocks under the water here. Now as this gets up under high tide, they're going to disappear. A lot of risks to the surfers. Same thing with procurement. You need to know where the rocks are. You have to get experience to miss them. So you need the knowledge and the understanding. Very important that you don't take risks. You avoid the rocks in procurement. That way you eliminate the mistakes. Good beach can be very treacherous. I just thought we'd come back and have a quick look at what happens under the surf. Here you see now in low tide, you just see how exposed the rocks are. A lot of young surfers come down here to this beach and they think, oh, jump in the water and catch a ride. Well, they catch more than a ride. And that's the problem with procurement. If you don't understand the risks, you'll catch more than a cold. And it will cost a lot of money. So be aware of the risks, okay? Anyway, look, I should really say, welcome back. And I just want to say thanks, and I'm really grateful for all the feedback and the questions that I've got from some of you folk. You've been doing your homework, and you've given me a bit more to do, and it's been really enjoyable. So hopefully this video that we're doing now that will answer some of your questions. In our last video we established that you owe it to yourself not only to acquire the skills and knowledge, but to ensure your personal growth and your leadership. This is going to equip you to stand out in the crowd. I mean, you deserve to get recognised and rewarded for the knowledge you put into projects. And this is made abundantly clear in our last video by your associations in the industry. They're the people that need your skills, they're the people that will pay for it. Let's go back to the office.
Guest, we're talking about risk in this video. Risk is your what if as opposed to an issue. An issue is something that has occurred, wasn't planned and needs attention, whereas risks are everywhere and they are your what if scenarios. So obviously it is critical to project success to brainstorm and record all the risks you can think of and then plan responses accordingly to reduce or eliminate the impact or likelihood of those risks occurring. So we conducted a survey with a mix of project managers, project team members, procurement managers and project procurement personnel. And the results were interesting, although for us, not completely surprising. We asked for issues in terms of pain, how painful things were for these people. And I'll give you the top 6. First and foremost was the lack of skills and knowledge personally, followed by suppliers not responding. Number 3 was lack of skills and knowledge organisationally. 4 was lack of understanding of procurement requirements. 5 was that project scope wasn't properly defined. And 6 was poor communication between project and procurement teams. Okay, in today's video, I said we're going to cover risk, but we're also going to look at supplier intent. So again, follow through and fill in your workbook, and any questions or comments, please put them in the box below.
Okay, I hope you're ready to get stuck into the next 2 topics. The first one that we're going to look at is risk. So what are the risks that are associated with project procurement? Whenever a product or service is acquired from outside of your organisation, there are risks associated. Each of these risks may significantly affect the project's objectives if they're realised. So if you've got a risk register, which I'm assuming you would, the corresponding entries might include that the supplier can't deliver the required quantity, that the quality of the products and services is not directly under your control, the supplier may not deliver on time. But wait, there's more. There always is. Unclear or ambiguous specifications, that is from your side, might make it difficult for the supplier to make an informed decision on cost. We might have errant or rogue procurement. So are the roles and responsibilities clear within the project team? Are they clear on who is responsible for procurement? Is it clear who the contracted suppliers are? Should the latter point not be clear, then there could be potential breaches of contract. Are the business processes fully understood by all stakeholders? So something like a flow diagram for key processes will help. Not having this can see organised chaos. Are there adequate systems to automate the process along with workflows? So here we're thinking about things like e-sourcing tools and project management software. Without them, management and oversight can be that much more onerous. There are software packages in the market that allow for project planning and e-procurement, and if possible, they should be availed of. Procurement, not being involved as a primary stakeholder from concept stage. This is a major risk. Once the horse is bolted, it then requires damage control. You become crisis management focused and don't have a proactive approach. Obviously then, we are in a much weaker position to negotiate from. Has anyone experienced a situation where someone comes up to you with an invoice without a purchase order number? We've seen it happen over and over again. This says someone, but we've had many people say, well, they've simply had no time to raise a purchase requisition or order or consult with procurement. They're too busy, the project has to get done, and they don't have time. So then we wonder, why are there so many budget blowouts? Well, there's some good reasons just then. If we don't take it seriously, we are not going to have a successful project environment. Supplier's intent. When I quiz people about how they run their procurement for projects, one of the things I hear all the time is just not understanding suppliers. So in this module, we're going to look to know how the suppliers are looking at your request and if they're going to respond. So what's your process when you send requests out to the market? We see that organisations send out their RFP, RFQ, then simply wait and hope they receive enough adequate responses at closing time. So then it comes time to opening the responses and they find there's not enough suppliers who've responded, and a lot of the time those that have are not a good fit. Does that sound familiar? Next, you're going back to the market and your project is already delayed. What should you do? Understand the project needs always, especially if what you're sourcing is critical to the delivery of the project. Then plan ahead. During the planning stage, engage with key stakeholders. Ensure the specifications are thorough. Research potential suppliers. Devise clauses and criteria and attach weightings. Have confidence when you go to the market. This sounds incredibly simple, but we can tell you it isn't done all the time. You must be proactive. So then, when you send out the request, add a criteria of having them A, acknowledge receiving the request, and B, indicating whether or not they will be responding to it. Simple, but rarely done. Take control of the process. You drive it to get the results you need to ensure your project stays on track. This is an example of what we do when we run tenders or RFPs on behalf of clients. As part of our package, the supplier has to indicate whether or not they are going to respond to this RFQ. Hence, we are taking the control position and we know from the outset if we've got enough suppliers or if we need to go back to the market straight away and include more suppliers in this request. Regardless, we are taking control. So you can have a look at one of the screenshots that we have. We can see that we've got our suppliers there and we've got their indication. In this case, all of the suppliers have told us that they will be responding to the tenders. So there you go, no more guesswork. We've taken control and know whether or not we need to send out to more suppliers.
Okay, thanks for watching that. Risks are everywhere and minimising or eliminating them may sometimes lead to other ones evolving. So just be aware of that. You need to think through all the consequences when you're planning for risks. Be thorough in your planning. Involve procurement and key stakeholders as early as possible. Give yourself the best chance to succeed. The same with dealing with suppliers. You take control. Simply by asking them to acknowledge that they have A, received your request, and B, their intent as to whether they're going to respond or not, takes you out of a position of being reactive and assuming and puts you into a much more proactive managing position. So again, any comments or questions below? Thanks.
Now this is a very interesting slide. I just picked this up probably a week and a half ago from a meeting and a presentation. And it shows clearly what's happening now as I speak to you. The lack of proper training and talent management and strategy. This affects people in procurement particularly. Almost 80% don't benchmark procurement training needs against revenue generating functions. 30% don't carry out regular skills gaps assessments. 50% almost don't use external trainers to bring procurement up to the staff to get them up to speed. 30% think there's any risk and alignment between procurement. This is changing, and people like KPMG are at the forefront of this change. So let me tell you again, this is important.
Hey, it's been great having you with us on this video number 2 and really appreciate your feedback. Keep it coming. So we've covered definitions, we've covered skills and knowledge required, we've covered risk and supplier intent. We are only scratching the surface, and I hope you're starting to see how much there is to learn and how you can take control of your project and your future by acquiring this knowledge. We're going to again build on this in video number 3, and we'll be looking at project scope and how through understanding and planning this really puts you in the driver's seat with your suppliers. How it lowers costs and leads to a much more successful delivery of your project. We also work through stakeholders, who they are and how they can work for or against your project, and what you need to do to ensure it's towards your project success. Okay, leave your comments and see you in video 3.